Alright, hey YouTube, it is I, Evil Umber Rays, here to bring you the evil news, and the evil news today is all about Final Fantasy Tactics. As a matter of fact, there's a slew of news today, just a deluge of it, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of stuff to get through, including just a massive amount of banners. So I'm not going to try and do it all in one video. One, because the app is going to crash 100 million times here on BlueStacks, and number two, it's just too much to get through. So with the test music playing in the background, let's see if we can get through everything that we need to talk about today. Starting off, of course, with the details on the Final Fantasy Tactics characters. And let me tell you, the Tactics characters tonight on a short little live stream got all of their information effectively published about what abilities are getting changed, what master abilities look like, and even if we just bring up this window capture right here, which is not set to the right time, but it's okay, we'll fix it. Essentially, a bunch of the guys got together for a mini little 30-minute live stream where they shared off the information, so while it is just struggling to try and get there, it's fine, we don't need it. I'm going to talk about it and general thoughts about each of the characters and whether or not they are worth your time. So let's bring this up, bring out just so we can have some visuals while we're talking about each of the characters and go from there. So first off, let's talk about... We're just going to pretend that didn't happen. Keep going. Alright, we're going to talk about all of the characters, starting with Ramza, because Ramza was the first character and looks to be the easiest to get if you are interested in using some paid lapises. He's the only one with a guaranteed. Thankfully, Ramza does look to be getting one of the better of the EX upgrades for all of the units. So, you know what? It's I guess just bringing up the news, because there's so much, it's crashing. Bring up Ramza really quickly. There he is, the pretty boy himself. So first of all, Ramza's new ability for getting up to 100 and or his job level 25 will be a new self-buff ability that grants a physical barrier for 3 times for him, as well as slash resistance and single target resistance. What's interesting about this is that, I mean, essentially it's painting the picture that Ramza is going to be continuing his line down the whole support unit. And I think that's pretty good for him. He was already a pretty good support unit before, and now he's just effectively getting better. Matter of fact, just off screen, was able to get this ready, and here is the preview screen here. You can see it is single target, it's only working for him, and I mean, it's effectively making him a more durable unit and potentially being just good to go kind of thing. Next up, his range skill is getting upgraded for a 3-turn defense and spirit down before damage, and also it is becoming an AoE with a defense penetration down debuff. So in other words, you know, this thing is pretty high range. If you can look on here, it's an AoE, it's got a massive amount of range on it now, and that's just really looking quite nice. Defense and Spirit Down will also enable other units to potentially get damage in there, be they physical or magical, and that works quite nicely with the party, so great. Next up, and certainly not least, Yell. Yell has always been one of my personal favorite skills that Ramza has, because it was just a great little buff. It had massive range on it, it was really easy to use, and it's getting even better. As you can see, it is actually extended in range on this, going from, I think it was like a 3 or whatever before, and now it's like a 4, so it's a much bigger diamond. It's giving an attack and magic buff, but it's also giving protect too. The Ramza just effectively gets a much bigger upgrade to being utility, support, and everything. And, you know, stat-wise, I'm assuming that he's going to get a nice HP boost, maybe some speed to make him a little more in line with current units, and he's just going to be a great little unit to throw on either a magical or a physical team and just reap the benefits. As for his master ability 2, slash resistance plus, or slash plus 20, slash penetration plus 20, and limit burst upgrade, which is one of the things I was hoping that he was going to get, because his limit burst it's far outdated. Now, we're not really seeing, by the looks of it, too much changes in how its damage calculation is done, unless we get some new information once the update is live. But it is getting a huge buff in the fact that it is removing all buffs from the target that it hits. Now, I assume, based on the wording, that it's just going to remove everything. Maybe it removes barriers and all kinds of stuff like haste and all of that, but a dispel effect on his limit burst is really interesting, because if he can't potentially increase the amount of damage it's done, the utility will be nice in PvE and PvP potentially. So great. Nice to see that Ramza is getting that. AP may still be a concern with this unit, and that needs to be something, because looking at some of the other EX units that we are getting in this update, there's a lot of AP considerations with some of the other units. The Ramza seems, unfortunately, maybe that AP will still be a problem. Yep. Thanks. There we go. Alright, next up, we're taking a look at Deleto, and Deleto, which is a banned word in my YouTube chat. Thankfully, not on my YouTube. You can discuss him. But Deleto has always had problems with range. He's always had problems with being more relevant in the what is capable of dishing out damage nowadays. So thankfully, it looks like some of this is getting improved. First of all, if you look at his new ability on the left there, massive amount of range on it, and an AoE to boot, removing re-raise and dealing large damage. Basically everything that we kind of were hoping that Deleto is going to get. I think the rest of his kit is still going to be pretty limited, but so long as this new ability gets a high number of uses and can, be reliably used and dish out a large amount of damage, Deleto could find his way back into a fire elemental team. As for his upgrades, on the abilities to the right, first of all, you're going to see his fire resistant down skill also becomes fire resistant down before damage is dealt. So that's going to make it much more effective. But as you can see, it still has a very limited range. And I was hoping that he would get a range increase on some of his old abilities. And sadly, that doesn't look to be the case. As for his last ability, his AP up becomes passive with accuracy up and slash penetration up. Basically, with the combination of his master ability too, with a defense penetration of 30% and a physical barrier of 3 hits, Deleto should be a very, very, very straightforward character in the sense that if he gets in range, and he does have some range abilities while he's getting there, he's going to be really good. His passive that gives him some survivability, and just how capable he is of dealing damage means that he's going to be absolutely dynamite on a really good map for him. I do think that he is the character that I still have the most worry, because while he gets a new skill with a lot of range on it, and he's probably going to lean on that heavily, he still has the same problem that fire has as an element, which it really needs access to more vision cards, and more vision cards that allow them to deal more damage. So, Deleto, I just am still concerned about him, but he did get a good upgrade, so that is worthy of some praise and whatnot. Alright, so let's just skip through, and here's the character that I am the most excited for, so I'm totally going to not be biased in this video. But yeah, Agrius. Agrius, 120 skill, is getting a medium range single target attack that removes protect, breaks barriers, and deals medium damage. I mean, there's some good support here that is just really, really nice that I like here, and with a lot of PvE enemies and just PvP enemies having this thing where they always have some kind of barrier survivability issue, this gets through a lot of survivability with removing barriers and protect. Even counters Ramza a little bit, which, okay, the girlfriend sometimes just beats you up, so whatever. Send help. But no, in all seriousness, I really like the new 120 skill on her, and it's got a good amount of range as well. As for her stop attack, now we'll remove re-raise, give hate up, and accuracy up. The stop attack has been, pretty good chosen for her kit to use. So I like that. Generating hate is always valuable for a tank-like unit, and accuracy up is really good because Ice has some good accuracy up vision cards already. So this is just, playing into the anti-evasion, which I like. As for her last skill, support skill will get that raises agility, and spirit will also generate hate now, which is pretty nice. Hey, thanks YouTube, you're actually just going a little too fast for me. So let's just scroll back here and pause for a second. So long as this support skill is always used at the beginning of battle, because as it turns out, her master ability 2 does not have any initial hate. I do believe it has some resistance up on it, as well as spirit up by 15. But other than that, hate generation is entirely from abilities in her kit, which means that you are going to potentially have to tutor her AI if her AI, chooses some other abilities. You definitely always want her to be running this spirit up, agility up, and hate up, but for all intents and purposes, Agrius is still going to continue being a magic tank, and is going to probably be very much in line with a lot of the other tanks. So, over 10,000 HP, high amount of spirit, potentially high amount of defense. I built mine currently with roughly about 60 defense and, around 17 spirit. So this upgrade is just going to kind of balance her out and be a little bit an in-between tank and potentially stop me from needing to get Snow. Yay. As for whether or not she's going to be better than Snow, she still has a... The thing is that we know that Snow doesn't have access to any status effects, and Agrius is still going to have access to her status effects. Snow looks to be a physical damage dealer, and not only a physical damage dealer, but also like a more physical-based tank, where Agrius is going to be more of a magical tank. I think the big difference that's going to happen between Snow and Agrius, besides maybe a little bit of stats, and obviously one's a physical and magical tank, I'm going to say that one of the big differences is going to be the status effects and how much utility you can get off that against opponents. Agrius just might be scarier because of that, but Snow might end up working better with the physical teams that Ice seems to be pushing right now with vision cards and everything. Long story short, final verdict is just going to be a wait and see on Monday once we get all the numbers and everything. But I think that Snow is going to be probably a little bit more impressive in overall stats. But Agrius can equip heavy armor, and I think Snow can only equip light armor. So that's probably going to be another big consideration. Just way too much to think about right now is whether or not it's going to be good. But I think Agrius is looking to be really solid because she already had status effects, and now she's just getting a lot of defensive capabilities against mages, which will make her very much useful. Alright, and everybody's favorite Thunder Stabby Boy, opposed from that other Thunder Stabby Boy, is Orlando. And Orlando looking really like he just got probably the overall best thing. For everybody who was worried that this unit, he's going to be 80 cost and everything, don't worry, we got some good news for you. So first of all, on his new ability, Guts Removal, slash resistance down on a medium target one that is AoE. Good range on it, not amazing range, but as you can see with this ability, removing Guts, is something that tanks run a lot of the time. Slash resistance gets through a lot of tanks, and medium damage is still pretty good overall with the capabilities that Thunder has right now in Thunder Slash. Sid is looking to be really scary and an enabler to get through tanks, especially physical tanks. So yeah, don't underestimate this character. New attack is already looking good. As for, I do believe it's Armor Crush. As you can see, massive range on this ability, getting increased accuracy, and not only that, increased damage too. Again, really scary for tanks to go up against this, and evade units, no less. And again, we've had a accuracy boost recently with the lightning-based units, so this is looking really nice as an overall combo. Last but not least, his self-buff is also getting improved. So an AP regen of medium, which I believe is on par with Bell's. Still want to see how many turns it lasts, if it got any improvements there, but okay. As for that, we're also getting AoE resistance up if his HP is over 70%, meaning that this is his harder to kill thing. So providing that his HP is over 70% and he runs this ability, which in AP regen, you always want that to be the first thing that a unit uses, he's going to be more difficult to kill providing that he has a tank protecting him. Love it. Last but not least, is his master ability too, which aside from being an absolute wall of text is looking really nice. Defense penetration of 30%, slash resistance of 10%, magic and missile resistance of 15%, and his limit burst gets an upgrade, including some debuff resistance up, AP cost down for his kit, and looks like just a buff overall. Oh, I'm getting a message from in chat right now that bells would be large, but you know what, a medium one, I guess that's a little more similar to Lucio's TMR, but still good enough to be run, I think. And you know, we never look twice. The point is that Orlando should be a overall more independent unit from Bells, kind of in the way that Locke was. And I think it's good enough that he's probably going to be run. The only question is what his overall stats kind of look like. But very much, you know, kind of brawly, HP and attack-based character. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Esther, but, you know, not exactly, before anybody comments about that. So yeah, thinking that he is looking particularly really nice, and then we just kind of skip ahead into the future to look at Mustafa. And Mustafa, as for whether his shards are farmable or not, I don't recall seeing anything, but there's probably ways to access it. He is still very much a gacha unit, and he is going to stay that way. Gafgarian is the only one who is going to be free with this event. So, you know, if you were hoping that Ramza or something would be free, sadly not. But yeah, let's talk about Mustafa. New 120 skill is a long-range, single-target attack that with piercing damage, which is pretty nice. Projectile resistance resists penetration, and maintenance gains a range and accuracy, while rapid fire gains an evade break, which is kind of interesting. Honestly, I'm not super impressed with Mustafa, because before we kind of got the information that Mustafa was supposed to be better overall with doing status effects, and it seems like they've veered really hard away from that. The one thing that I actually think is really a positive note, though, is his master ability, giving him range +1 and reaction block of 40, which is generally good. I think that Mustafa, with his limit burst, with his status effects, even not being 100%, will find its way into limited time guild wars. Given that Earth has some strong characters right now, and a range character with status effects and some nasty things to him is definitely a benefit and not a burden. Alright, and I think there's only one more character. I think we've got mostly everything. Let's just see to make sure. Just checking really quickly. Oh, sorry, there's a little bit more to Mustafa. He gets a little bit of an HP buff and stop resistance for the party. That was the other thing I was forgetting in here. I knew there was something else. Yeah, alright, moving on. Gafgarian. Everybody's favorite dark stabby boy, except for all the other dark stabby boys. For his master ability, we'll switch it up and talk about his master ability first. Of course, the party buffs, including sleep resistance. It's a critical chance up of 15 and a defense and spirit increase of 25 when his HP is over 70%. Kind of makes him a little bit more difficult to kill, and he does possess a really easy way of regenerating HP in his kit with Drain Blade, so kind of interesting. As for his EX, he gets Deception, and Deception gets an increase, gaining attack up and slash attack up. Shadow Blade will gain more slash resistance penetration up and increase power, and his new skill is a 3-range small shaped AoE defense down, then attack with an HP absorb. So he actually gains a second HP absorb as well, which is overall pretty nice. So yeah, for everyone who was kind of doom and gloom worrying about low costs on these EX units and everything, I mean, we still need to see what their overall stats would look like, but early impressions, Ramza is a really great utility unit that it'll just fit really nicely into a lot of different light-based parties, in the similar way that Hope would. Continuing on, I think that Sid is probably one of, if not my favorite upgrade. I think just with how strong Lightning is right now, he's a great one. He's much more modern with lots of different things, skipping through, improving his limit burst, giving more resistances, slash resistance, guts removal, accuracy up, and some AoE resistance if he has high HP. I generally really like him. I don't think that he's going to replace Lightning, Esther, or any of the other really strong Thunder units, but if you're looking to round out your Thunder party, you can do a heck of a lot worse than Orlandu. Deleto still probably features a little bit too many of the same problems that Fire has as an element, but I think he's a good get for the Fire element because he has some Fire debuffing skills, he has some damage, but with no chaining options, with with a lot of his kits still being very range limited and his movement options also not really getting much better, I feel like he's generally going to still have the same problems, but he could end up a wild card where he ends up being better than I think he is. Agrius, I think, is just dynamite. Providing that her AI doesn't have any problems, we're going to see absolutely her be a totally viable option to potentially replace Snow and for people to not get Snow. But she's still very much thoroughly a magic-based tank that you can also build to be a really good physical tank. With just generally good support, nice status effects that were already there, and removing barriers and whatnot, she'll definitely find her way into basically every ice elemental team, with the only real downside of if you're skipping Snow and just getting Agrius into EX is the problem that you're probably still going to have to get the Snow Vision card to round out the damage that Ice is capable of doing. As for Mustafa and Gafgarian, Gafgarian's free, so it's fine. You're basically using him for the Shadow EX and maybe Limited, and that's essentially where he'll stay in. That's good enough, but he'll be good for people who are looking to, put another dark character who don't have enough URs yet. Mustafa will probably find a place in Limited, and honestly, if you have Queen Macherie, maybe you're just running those two with a third Earth Elemental unit in a limited time, in a limited cost event. But yeah, I don't think that Mustafa is going to break the game or anything based on his stuff. But yeah, overall, a nice little batch of upgrades for the X's for these tactics characters, and I think people should be generally pretty excited for all of them. There's just a really, really big question mark of their stats and what the stats will look like when they're all built. But we'll find out that early next week on Monday, once the game is updated and they are available in the JP side. And now that this video has been running for roughly about 24 minutes while I yammered on a whole bunch, now you know why we're not talking about the banners and the rest of this stuff in this video. Anyway, see you in the next video where we continue on where all the other news we didn't talk about.